Today I wanted to do a channeled messages on the Trump trial verdict. And I know many people some are very happy. This is a very polarized issue. Some people are very happy. Some people are very sad. Some people believe that our freedoms and that our protection from our government is no longer due to this, and that our freedoms are all in question. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I myself yesterday, when I heard this, I had so many feelings. I was excited because we're finally holding our politicians accountable. And then on the other side of that, I was terribly sad because it's very selective in who gets held accountable and who doesn't. And this isn't across the board holding people accountable. This is someone holding a certain person accountable rather than all. And that is quite frustrating to me. Our judicial system is, in my mind, it serves the few, not the many. And I was very curious about big picture perspectives as to what this was about and what we're doing as a collective to bring unity, to create justice, and to wrong rights, or to right wrongs. And so I pulled some cards because I wanted to understand more deeply as to what was going on here, because I know before Trump was elected that Spirit told me that this would be the trumpet that was heard around the world, and that he would bring out the underbelly of the United States and of the issues that at large have been at play for over a century, and probably even longer than that, right? For the elite. And it's very curious and interesting to me, these times that we're in. Spirit back in like 2017 told me that we would be repeating what happened in the 20s and the 30s in this time frame, and it's very real. I mean, with the falling of so many systems, right? With the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, Hollywood falling, the old Hollywood. Next up, from what I can understand, will be the CIA, the FBI, and then in 2027, the falling of the banking systems. And so I'm very curious to know what big picture here is really going on. And I pulled some cards. So let me show them to you. So we have the Eagle King with the big picture angelic help. We have the Dragon's Duel with inner conflict, morality, and conscious choice. With the Ice Queen, ideas preserved, non-action, entitlement. With the Phoenix, resurrection, surrender to change. Then we have the Map Maker of Destiny in reverse. And upright, this meaning is authentic purpose, inspiration, and free will. And then we have the Diamond Dreamer, also in reverse, and upright, material wealth, true prosperity. So that both of those are in reverse is very interesting to me. And then Hungry Ghosts is upright, with obsession, scarcity consciousness, and attachment. Now, these cards I pulled from the bottom and the middle of the deck. And so for me, what is hidden, and then also the heart of the matter. And over here we have selflessness, humility, and conscious action, with joyful activity with the Sun Dancer, a celebration of life and abundance with the River Queen, flow, letting go, natural movement. And then Dreamwalker, dreams, the collective good, and illusions. And so as I was looking at all of this, whoo, phone's gonna fall. This is from the universe in that sense. When I see the Eagle King with the big picture angelic help, it's really a call for justice in the way, as Trump happens to be the man who is embodying that, who is in that sense the fall guy, because he's not attached to all of them. It's easy to throw him against the wall, right? But when we go talking about the Epstein case, and no action has been taken on the elite, all of those politicians who were having sex with minors and doing terrible things to these young girls, and how many women, I mean thousands of women, were affected by this, who there was no accountability to them, for them. for what has happened to them. I mean, and then also the lack of talk around the SMEX trade, right? And the way our women and children are being passed around to the elite and then sold in our world, sold all over the world. I come from Portland, Oregon, and Portland, Oregon is the third largest sex trafficking place in the world. And so this is a very real issue that is not being addressed, right? But we want to talk about Trump paying off people and bribing. And then let's talk about all the NDAs, right? If we go to the Diddy trial, or no trial, no trial. But let's talk about all the NDAs he had people signing and how that was completely acceptable. All the people who've been paid off. Let's talk about Clinton and the things that he had done in his reign, and the women, I mean, taking advantage of an 18-year-old girl while in the Oval Office, having schmecks with her, and then her downfall and how they made her the bad guy, right? She was the victim, but she took the fall for them. She was their fall guy. And people still walk around to this day talking about what a great president he was. No, he wasn't. He's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Let's talk about Hillary and selling our secrets. No accountability. None. Absolutely no accountability. But we're over here talking about Trump and a porn star who he was sleeping with and how he paid her off. How interesting. Now, it is quite beautiful to me that finally we're in a place that we're more conscious than we've ever been. We're connected to each other than we've ever been, with more access than we've ever had, at least in this known world, right? And how this represents the first time we're holding someone accountable in this way, the first time. But I think it's interesting that we got the Dragon's duel with inner conflict, right? Morality and conscious choice, and how for the first time are we starting to say that this behavior is unacceptable behavior. Because look, politicians have been accepting money and pushing propaganda and pushing things such as like the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies. Back in the 50s, the president signed something saying that we will never question, that we will never they will never interfere in the way that the insurance companies go about getting money from us, and the ways that they do that and how they don't support us, that they wouldn't get involved, right? And then also let's talk about pharmaceutical companies and the contracts and how no drugs can be nationally legal because it goes against those contracts, right? Such as marijuana or mushrooms. And so please, in that sense, our government is rallying behind the pharmaceutical companies and all of the atrocities that they do, such as, I mean, insulin is such a required pharmaceutical for people to live, and they're allowed to charge you $500 for a vial. It's ridiculous, and it's completely unacceptable. I mean, if we go to Ozempic and we talk about all of our people who are sick and struggling and needing help, and how expensive that is and how difficult it is to get access to it. If you're rich, if you're an elite, you can have access. That's fine. But if you are the average person, the average worker, which 70% of the United States is that, that's a no. That's a hard no, unless you meet all of these qualifications. And so it's very interesting because, again, the trumpet heard around the world, right? And the first one to be held accountable. And that at this point, we're having morality and we're questioning these things. But we didn't have morality when it was time to question Clinton. I mean, I was watching a documentary on his trial and how they couldn't tell the American people all the things that actually happened because they would be so aghast and they wouldn't be able to, they would lose faith in the government and in the systems. But it happened. And they went and they lied to us about what really happened, and they only presented a very short, small picture of what it actually was. And so I feel like this is one of the first times that we're actually being honest, that we're actually telling the truth. And it can't be helped because of social media. It can't be helped because of things like TikTok and our access to the internet and the ways in which we can now communicate with each other, and they can't control it. That's why they want to ban TikTok. That's why they want control, because they can't have it when it comes to TikTok. And so I find it really interesting. Also, let's talk about the ruling elite and their hidden societies and the ways in which they continue to keep each other up and hidden and supported while the little man falls. And the little man makes up most of the United States. And so I think it's very interesting, completely interesting. But what Spirit brought me about this was that ideas preserved, entitlement, and non-action. In this, the ruling elite is safe in some sense, right? Because again, Trump by no means is the first one. No means, not at all, not even a little bit. There's no way he would even have a platform if hundreds, maybe even thousands of others, I'm probably even thousands, I'm Spirit saying even more than that, and over a century that this has been going on. And if we look to history, such as our forefathers in the sense of England and the ways that the monarchy has been kept safe and that the ruling class there has been protected, right? They can rape young women. They can, I mean, Prince Andrew, right? It's okay to rape young women. It's fine. You're a prince. Like, let's just be real about that. But that this is a tipping point with the surrender to change and the embracing of change, right? But what I found interesting was that the map maker of destiny with authentic purpose, inspiration, and free will is in reverse, meaning that this was all orchestrated. Meaning that this wasn't free will at play. This is an orchestration, which par for course, right? And then we have the diamond dreamer with material wealth and true prosperity. Again, in reverse, meaning that this isn't about true prosperity. This isn't about the true liberation of our people. This is about keeping certain people safe and using others as a scapegoat. With hungry ghosts, okay, and this is upright, with obsessions, scarcity consciousness, and attachment. And so keeping things, the status quo, the way that it is, Trump really pushed the boundaries of what has been, right? And he's calling them out, and he was using their same methods. The only thing is he made them angry. He really did. And I'm not sitting here holding a position for Trump or against Trump. I'm looking at this very objectively, as best that I can, because I'm not saying that he has my vote at all. He doesn't represent me. Neither does Biden. I don't feel represented by either of these politicians. And I can't say that we've had one presidency in my lifetime that I felt truly represented by. For the people, by the people. It's bull. It's bull, because that's not real. But we do have a constitution, and the things that have been done are completely going against our constitution. If we talk about taxes, if we talk about equality between all people having rights, like, no, we can go to Jim Crow laws and the ways that they have sneakily and very so much hidden the ways that they have kept us in separation and continue to encourage us to fight each other. The only way we will have unity is if we can look at each other and see ourselves, is that we can humanize each other and see that we're the same. While we all may go about this different, we may have different cultural beliefs, cultural systems, ideas, thought processes. At the end, our core is the same. The things that we all need to thrive on some level, at least when we're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Such as the need for belongingness, for food, shelter, home, the ability to be connected. These things are core to us, right? And also, I thought it was really interesting. My aunt yesterday brought up how the social systems, particularly here in Oregon, it's a socialistic society, and yet we don't get to reap the benefits of socialism because it's not talked about in that way. It's just used as a way to create this idea that we are all one and connected, but the way that it actually plays out is not equal and equitable at all. And so this to me represents these hungry ghosts, in the sense that it is scarcity consciousness. It is keeping the few in positions of power, and doing this facade dance of unity, and that we're here together and we're doing this together, right? I believe at the core of every human is the desire to love and to serve all of us. We all have that desire. Look at our professions. If we look to all of the professions in our world, you can see that we look to serve one another, to love one another, to celebrate ourselves, and to share our gifts with the world. I mean, pick some professions. I mean, I was thinking about all of our service professions, such as teachers, such as firefighters, police, doctors, nurses. down to, I mean, as simple as a gas station attendant or a store clerk. We're here to serve each other, to care for each other, to provide for each other. Seamstresses. I mean, come on, this is a beautiful artwork, or an architect. Like, this is my art. This is my artistry. And I want to share that with you. And I want to help you build a home, or I want you to have the most, clothes that fit you, or I want to create beautiful things to share with you so that you feel beautiful, right? That is artistry. That is also our innate desire to serve one another. I mean, a teacher at its core fundament is exactly that. A desire to educate, to empower, to advocate, and smooth shift into being a lawyer, right? A doctor, to heal, to nurture, to educate, to support. An acupuncturist. I want to help you heal your body. I want to help you move your energy. I want to help you release. I want to help you be all that you are. And we go to a psychic. I want to help you be embodied, a coach. I want to help you live your best life. I want to advocate for you, support you, encourage you, educate you. I mean, you can see this at every layer of our society, which then brings me here, 1616 on my timer, with the High Lord of gratitude and service, selflessness, humility, and conscious action. This is at the core of every human being. This is who we authentically are, right? Does it get warped? Sure. Money, power, ego, narcissism, right? We can see that in every layer of our society. Corrupt politicians, thieves. You can pick any profession and you can see that, right? Power being more important than service. But what I really got from Spirit was that in the collective, in our unit, and what we're striving for in totality as a whole, we are looking to move out of these lack consciousnesses and into authenticity, into unity consciousness, into our most basic and true of natures of love, of service, of care. That's who we really are. And with Joyful Dancer, you can see that very clearly, right? With joyful activity, celebration of life and abundance, there is plenty. We live in a very rich nation and we have a lot of resources. I mean, an epic amount of resources that we're sending $1 billion worth of bombs and firearms to the Israeli cause. I mean, where's all that money coming from? We have people here who are starving. Have you guys seen the other national, or not our nation, but like China? There are campaigns where they're raising food and money for hungry Americans. We have so many children in foster systems who are not being provided for and cared for. Especially here in Oregon, because so many people send their houseless people to us. Like, we have people who are wandering our streets without food, without shelter, without safety. And let me tell you, Oregon is not the warmest place in the world. It rains a lot. It's cold and it's dreary. I mean, we are over, naturally, we get less than 40% of the vitamin D daily that is needed because it is cold. It is cold here. And it is not sunshiny. There is a lot of rain and fog. We have what's called a rain cloud due to Mount Hood. And so if we're being honest about what our people need, we're totally missing the boat. We are so busy being imperialistic America and also trying to be the hero that our own people are neglected. I mean, education-wise, I spent 5 years working at a highly impoverished school where the walls are filled with asbestos, where you can't drink the water. They had to bring in water because you couldn't drink the water because of the pipes. But we're over here focused on all of these other places, doing all these other things. And by no means am I saying that we should stand aside when it comes to genocide and big worldly issues, because we shouldn't. It's not right. But also that is where our focus is, and it's not a focus on our own people, is a problem. So next we have flow, letting go, intuition, and movement, and natural movement. So it's almost like in this, the collective is finally allowing the seeing of true nature to actually start disseminating and deconstructing the systems that are at play and the ways that we, as in every American, is allowing this and has been allowing this for generations, right? It's easy to blame the generations before you. It's easy to blame the systems. It's easy to blame everyone else instead of looking at yourself and taking accountability for all that has come to pass, because every single person that has the ability to vote, are you voting? I can even honestly say that I have work to do with that. And are you recognizing that you have power and that you are electing, or by not voting, allowing these situations to occur? It all starts within us. It's easy to look to another and blame and shame, but where is it that we do the turning point and come within ourselves and say, how could I do better? How could I be better? How could I learn more? How could I show up in a more authentic way? How could I use my vote to create a difference, right? Also, how can I support others who are in positions to become politicians or to become leaders of society that actually support people with ideals and perspectives that support us all and not just the few, right? Which comes to this card, the dream walker, with dreams, the collective good, and illusions. How is it that you can remove the illusions, can take off the veil, can remove the blindfold and see what is going on for what it truly is? And how can you, me, each of us as the individual, raise each other's voices? See what's going on, encourage each other, share knowledge, advice, wisdom, experience, so that we can see clearly through the mirror. Because very much indeed is there a smoky mirror going on, right? On the bottom of the deck, we have assistance and control with the High Lady of compassion, of love and compassion. How can we see how with all of our love, all of our compassion, all of our consideration, that we can stand up and we can use our voice and our vote to create change, to elect people into positions who actually are seeking to serve us and not just themselves or the elite? This is a lot about accountability and also a great shift in the paradigms. This is the time. It is now. It is now. It is now. This is the time where we recognize ourselves and each other, and we start elevating each other's voices, and we take accountability for the things that have done, how we haven't been taking action, how we haven't been supporting each other, how we still look at another and don't see ourselves. That's the narcissism in this world, and it is at an all-time high, higher than it has ever been. The only way we create change is by being the change within ourselves and uniting each other uniting with more people who wish to see change in this world. It takes action. And it's easy to sit back and say, well, what power do I have? Well, you have the power of your voice, and you have the power of your vote. You have the power of your mind. You have the power of your choices. We all have free will. And it's interesting in this how free will is in reverse, because let's be very honest. Again, our justice system serves the few, not the many. How many people got 3 strikes over the silliest of things? In Oregon, there's the 3-strike law where they can collide them all, pull them all together and put someone in prison for 9 to 50 years over simple things like petty fraud. And yet murderers, rapists, they walk free. They roam this land. I mean, big cartel drug dealers roam this land free. And we're busy putting people in prison over a tiny bag of White Girl or of Mary Jane. What's really fascinating to me, and I have wondered this a long time, my grandfather is from Holland and Indonesia. And if you go to Amsterdam, there are certain places where you can purchase drugs and do them legally. And because of that, the regulation on that, we're so busy locking people up over the silliest of things, right? Like, even if you just look at the laws and the way that they affect people when we talk about White Girl or crack, right? White Girl is a much smaller charge than crack. And why is that? Because who does crack and who does White Girl? Let's be honest about that. The rich have access to White Girl. The poor have access to crack. And then let's talk about Reagan. Let's talk about the way that our own government put crack on the streets to wipe out African Americans and poor people. I mean, we have to be honest about these things and the way that laws get made that impact certain people, right? To be able to vote, you have to have, in some states, 3 to 5 pieces of ID. Who has access to 3 to 5 pieces of ID? The rich, not the poor. And so let's talk about how that separates then people in poverty and people who are continuously kept in poverty due to lack of space within our society, holding positions of power, and then the creating of community in that, right? In social groups, right? How many people of color do you actually see holding positions in office, holding positions in society where they have access to group power? Only very certain people have access to that. And so deconstruction is important. Listening and elevating each other's voices. We have to be able to sit and listen to someone who does not look like us and does not have our experiences, because they represent another group, another part of all of us. And in this, we have work to do. We have work to do. And so I was seeing how big picture here, this is a great step forward for our collective, and that we're actually finally holding one of our politicians accountable. But beyond that, the only reason he's the one being held accountable is because he's not one of them. And this is important stuff, because this is played out, this paradigm is played out over and over and over and over and over again. It's so easy for them to make him their scapegoat. So easy, when yet so many of them. I mean, let's look at the Clintons. Hillary Clinton was never held accountable for selling our secrets. And that's treason, but never held accountable. Bill Clinton never truly held accountable for taking advantage of young women in his position of power. Never. Literally, that's their standing point with Trump. The first time we've ever held or put a president in this, a previous president in this position. So we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to take a deeper look. How is this our reflection? How is this a part of the world that we have lived in for so long? It's time to remove the blindfold. It is time to continue to surrender to change and to ask ourselves to be accountable with our voices and our choices, because that's the only way things change. The only way. So cheers, beautiful beings. I wish you the most beautiful day. And I invite you to take some of this as food for thought and to wonder about systemic change and your voice and the choices that you can make and the actions you can take to serve us better as the all, because we're one. We're one earth. When the star beings or the aliens start coming in, you have to, are we going to continue to fight ourselves, or are we going to unite and say we're one earth, we are global citizens, we're one? Or are we going to continue to fight ourselves and separate ourselves and play petty games? The places we could go, the things we can do. There are star beings who are intergalactic, or who are part of intergalactic unions, galactic councils. We very easily could be there. We very easily will be there one day. But as long as we're doing petty squabbles and fighting ourselves and each other, that stays out of reach. They have technology that can heal our bodies. They have technologies where we can do intergalactic travel and see, our history as a people and how far we can go, because we're all one. Even go to the star beings, we're one. They help create us. We would not exist without them. And how each and every aspect is the aspect of the all. We're not separate. Yes, we're different. We come from different cultures, different perspectives, different ways of being. And yet, at the same time, we're all made of stars. So, cheers. I wish you a beautiful day. And I will see you in the next one.